Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. Take a look at these comic covers right here. Now please bear with me in this review. I'm still getting used to the camera angle, the lighting, and the audio on this webcam. I'm using this review as kind of a test review to see how things translate over onto YouTube. We'll see how things work, and then we'll go from there. See if I have to make any changing. I'm looking at the picture right now, and I think I'm going to have to change the lighting up a bit. But with that said, Diana Prince Wonder Woman is a series of Wonder Woman stories, a collection that I've been wanting to review for quite some time. One is because these series of stories are important to Wonder Woman as a comic and also as a character. Two is because they have relevance to what's going on with Wonder Woman right now. The big reboot, the change in costume, the depowering, and the story as a whole. Now, Diana Prince Wonder Woman is a series of stories that was done up in the 70s. And going into the 70s, Wonder Woman's comic was utterly failing and tanking. See, out of all the characters in the DC universe, Wonder Woman had the worst transition over into the Silver Age. See, back in the Golden Age, Wonder Woman's standard was very simple. She came over to man's world to fight Nazis and to help out in World War II. In the 50s and 60s, there were no Nazis. There was no World War II. So how are you going to rectify these things that are so important to Wonder Woman's character? They tried the best they can in the Silver Age, but a lot of this stuff just came off as goofy, silly, and just downright unbearable to read. And this is coming from one of the biggest Wonder Woman fans out there. I love Wonder Woman. She's my second favorite comic book character. But the Silver Age stuff was just absolutely atrocious, especially when they did crossovers with Wonder Mom, Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, and Wonder Tot. Really? Really? It just didn't work out well. So going into the 70s, Wonder Woman was failing as a comic. DC decided to mix things up, changed Wonder Woman, and brought in Dennis O'Neil to do so. Now, I want to say it up front that I do not agree ever with taking away Wonder Woman's powers and taking away her cultural background, the Greek mythos. This is what makes Wonder Woman Wonder Woman. You can try to change Wonder Woman up, her costume, or maybe her direction in comics, but you shouldn't take away that stuff. It's like taking away Superman being able to fly, have superpowers, and being from Krypton. It's just such a core key element to the character that taking away it would not be Superman. And the same thing with Wonder Woman. Taking away her powers and taking away her Greek mythos and background, it's just not Wonder Woman. It doesn't feel like Wonder Woman. So I didn't agree with the changes that were done in these series of stories. But I have to give Dennis O'Neil props for two reasons. One is because Dennis O'Neil stepped outside the box and he was willing to take a risk to make things better. Often, not many writers take risks. They often conform to the norm. And sometimes playing it safe is not the safest thing to do. The second thing that Dennis O'Neil did that I have to commemorate with this is the fact that he admitted that he was wrong in doing these. Eventually these changes didn't last and Wonder Woman returned back to what she originally was. But in an interview, Dennis O'Neil was asked why he did what he did. And he said, and this is not exact words or quoted 100% correctly, but he said he wanted to make Wonder Woman powerful without her actually having her powers. And the interviewer said, but what you did is you took the most powerful female character and you took away what made her powerful, her powers. And he said, well, gee, I didn't realize that at the time. I'm sorry, I was wrong. And right there, Dennis O'Neil admitted he was wrong. And that takes a lot of character, especially in something like the comic book industry, where writers tend to have egos. Frank Miller. Cough. Yes. Not often do people admit that they're wrong, but Dennis O'Neil was a big man. He said, yes, I tried something different. I wanted to improve the character, but it didn't work out that well. And I admit that I was wrong, and I did wrong in it. And I have to give him props for that, because he did do wrong, but he was willing to stand up and admit his wrong. So, kudos to you, Dennis O'Neil. You have earned yet another notch on my list of greatest writers of all time. With that said, let's actually get into the Wonder Woman stories themselves. Now, Diana Prince Wonder Woman is more or less a collection of stories, and it's not an overall story arc or overall series of story arcs. There's some recurring elements and villains like Dr. Cyber, but on a whole, it's just individual one-shot stories. And the basic concept is that the Amazons have to leave man's world, and because they're leaving man's world, Wonder Woman would be without her powers. Somehow her powers are connected to Themyscira, but Themyscira has disappeared from man's world before many times, and later on in other stories, and Wonder Woman never lost her powers there. Whatever, I'll let it slide. Anyways, Wonder Woman decides to stay back because Stephen Trevor is basically being framed for murder, and Wonder Woman needs to help out clear his name. This is a way to remove Stephen Trevor from the picture. And as much as I love Stephen Trevor, I never cared for him as a love interest for Wonder Woman. I more or less prefer him to be a big brother image for Wonder Woman, which is what he's being portrayed as right now in the modern continuity. He's just not being used that much. So this was a way to remove Stephen Trevor from the picture. So Wonder Woman doesn't have her closest ally and her closest love, Stephen Trevor, and she doesn't have her powers, and she doesn't have her family and her mother and her culture. She's basically a no one. So she meets up with this new teacher, this new ally named Ai Chang, a blind Oriental Asian individual. I'm not exactly sure what ethnicity he is. I want to say Vietnamese, but I could be wrong. And Ai Chang is this badass, complete badass. He is blind, but he's like the blind swordsman. He doesn't need to see. He's a better fighter than some people are when they can see. And he teaches her martial arts and teaches her life lessons and basically helps her on her journey without her powers. And that's basically the concept of the story. Wonder Woman is without her powers and she needs to make a living for herself in man's world, fighting against evil, taking down criminals, and dealing with just being Diana Prince. So with that said, let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, despite the fact that I do not agree with the changes that are done in these stories, I have to admit these stories are well written and they are fun. It's like a little adventure. This has a little bit of everything for everyone. You'll start off with having very traditional superhero stories where Wonder Woman goes up against a super villain. Then you'll have very street level stories where she goes up against muggers and attackers and rapists and all that kind of stuff. And then you have adventure stories where she'll go to another dimension and fight in a big war against these mongrels and these barbarians. And then you'll have her go off and do these miscellaneous team-ups with Superman and Batman, and it just has so much and so much diversity that it has a little bit of everything. I mean, there's even a part where she has to solve a ghost mystery. Yeah, there's a lot of spy stories in this too, which is kind of cool. I like 70s spy stories for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like James Bond so much. A lot of his best stuff was done up in the 70s. But there's a little bit of everything for everyone here. So if you're looking for a specific superhero or comic book genre, you're probably going to get it here. Another thing is I do like Ai Chang as a character. I think he's cool. I think he's what was needed for the comic at this time. And I like the removal of Stephen Trevor as a constant burden on Wonder Woman. I don't think Wonder Woman should have a particular love interest, at least not right now. Which is kind of awkward because, see, I think Batman should have a stable love interest because he's been single for so long. But I think Wonder Woman works better without a love interest because it keeps her from being held back. If Wonder Woman was to have a love interest, it needs to be someone that would keep up with her. And Stephen Trevor can't. He's always kind of a damsel in distress. Bringing in Ai Chang, I think, was a great move because he's a great character and he was necessary for the position that Wonder Woman needed to have filled as a mentor. The art in this is also very nice, especially for the 70s. I really like how Diana is done up with her eyebrows and with her hair. Very, very 70s style, but it really does define Wonder Woman as a character when being drawn. Very beautifully done. Bad. Well, the first bad is Wonder Woman is portrayed as an idiot at times. First of all, I have a question. Why does she need to be trained in martial arts if she has training in Amazon combat and fighting style? Even if she wasn't trained in Amazon fighting, she was a superhero for X amount of years before this. She must have picked up some basic form of combat. You know, kind of like how Superman does. Even without his powers, he can still hold himself in a fight because he's been in enough over-the-top fights that he pick up some battle combat awareness. But Wonder Woman here, once she loses her powers, she's like an idiot. So I found that kind of odd, and it really is annoying that that happens. I think Wonder Woman is more competent without her powers than they portray her here. I understand it's to relate her to the readers. The readers kind of feel like they're in the same position of Wonder Woman, that they need to grow and learn and kind of, trial by fire, but it doesn't really work out for Wonder Woman as a character. Second is, although these have a little bit of everything for everyone, it doesn't have a set standard. It doesn't have a set tempo. It doesn't have a set kind of story. And it could be kind of schizophrenic, for lack of a better term. You're reading the spy story and you're really getting into it, and then suddenly we're in like Narnia fighting dragons and barbarians. It's kind of like bipolar in a way. In addition to that, there's no real recurring villains except for Dr. Cyber, who's actually quite a fun, campy villain that I really wanted to see more of that they just didn't really use that much. But there's really no recurring villains, and in addition to that, I-Chain, although was a great character, wasn't quite utilized as well as I think he could have been utilized. He only shows up in like every other story at best. Whether or not you should get these. Well, I have to say, despite the fact that I don't agree with the decision of doing these stories at the time, they were still fun and they were still enjoyable. It's not my first thing to get on a Wonder Woman comic book list, but they are fun series of stories that you can just pick up, read, and put down. They're also kind of a good entryway for new readers of Wonder Woman who don't want to dip into the superhero aspect quite so quickly, or they want to be eased into the character, and this could be a way of doing so. They kind of read this and they'd be like, oh, well, Wonder Woman's kind of like me, and I have to, grow with her, and then eventually you can step into the real superhero stuff. When it comes down to comparing this to the Wonder Woman changes being done right now, I prefer these a lot more. It's hard for me to really say that because, well, the stuff going on with Wonder Woman hasn't been fully completed yet, so anything can happen at the end. But I like the fact that this actually only builds off with whatever was done with Wonder Woman beforehand. It doesn't retcon stuff like the current stuff. Now, for all we know, the current Wonder Woman storyline, Odyssey, is going to end with everything being brought back to normal, and she just keeps the costume because the costume is liked by other comic book fans. But I mean, as of right now, these are enjoyable stories compared to that one. Again, this is a very uneducated conclusion because I have not fully read the new series and it has not fully completed. But on a whole, these are fun stories, and although I don't agree with what went down at the time with them, looking back at them now from this time, day, and age, they're still good, they're still fun, and I do recommend people picking them up. It's a 4-volume series right now. I'm not sure if they're going to add more to it. I don't know if there was any more that was collected into it. Uh, at most, if you're only looking to pick up one volume, pick up volume 1. It gets you what you need from the series, but I do recommend picking up all 4 volumes at some time. They are expensive and they are kind of rare. I've seen them only at my comic book store and nowhere else at all. No Barnes & Noble, no other comic book store, only at my comic book store. So maybe you should go online and check to see if they're online. And if you pay cover price, it's going to be $19 for each volume. So it's going to come out to like $80 total. It's a lot. So you might want to consider just getting the first volume. But like I said, they were fun, enjoyable, and had a little bit of everything for everyone. Does it have its faults? Yes. But if you look past the faults, I think you'll find something enjoyable here. With that said, I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.